Thank you guys for joining me live tonight. I know it's a day early than normal. I think I might end up doing Thursdays going forward just for my own mental state because coming home on a Friday after a long week and jumping on here is a bit much sometimes. I love spending time with you guys, absolutely do, but just need some decompression time. But awesome stuff to go over today. Very, very exciting. We've got Tesla earnings that were a blowout. We had UPS coming out with really good earnings as well. And I'm an investor in UPS, and they took a dip, and UPS has historically been kind of a good gauge for what the economy is doing. And so we'll go over their earnings, and they had very good earnings. So kind of gives us some possible hope for a soft landing, but we'll discuss more of that shortly as you guys all get onto here. But you guys can also let me know. I know we're going to probably talk mostly about Tesla on here, but let me know how you guys feel. And already got Sith Lord on here. Yep, awesome news. I mean, that was awesome. Anybody who's been holding, and it's one of those things that I discussed with you guys when Elon was selling. Just with all the challenges that Tesla had been facing from a stock price standpoint, from a fundamental standpoint, with the interest rates going up and having to get through this whole entire year. It's one of those. I've kind of been there as the hey, look at the fundamentals of the company. And yes, I know the fundamentals because of interest rates were causing some major problems, but did we think that was going to last forever? The answers to these things are no, because interest rates aren't going to stay that high forever. So it's, just a thought to put into your minds whenever you're questioning your, you want to make sure your conviction in the stock is strong in the company. And if your conviction is wavering, ask very simple questions. You have to take your emotions out, and it's really hard. And that's one of the things that I had become known for on here was helping people keep their emotions out of investing. And in particular, when it came to Tesla, because your emotions can really get involved. Because, I look at, the comments that I have on a bunch of my videos here, over on X, over there, just looking at the conversations people have between my dividend portfolio. Everybody talking on there is all positive. This is great. I invest in this. It's not even like I don't want to say emotional at all. It's all just, hey, these are things I'm investing in. Here's some good ideas. This is what I do. This is what I do. I did great here. I got these dividends here. That's kind of how it all goes between all those conversations. When it comes to Tesla, gosh, it could be all over the place. We got Tesla bears coming out saying, oh, it's going to be crap. And other ones. And there's just like the banter is completely different between a Tesla stock holder and just the talk between Tesla and dividend companies. I think there's nothing right or wrong with either one of them. It's just that is the exact nature and exactly what is playing out when it comes to both of these. And again, when you have high growth stocks with high potential like a Tesla, you're going to get that on both sides. Conversely, you're also going to get the opposite from dividends because it's super boring, and boring doesn't really invoke a lot of emotions. Plus, when it comes to Tesla, they're doing a lot of disruptive stuff that's going on that's going to kind of piss off a bunch of people. So that's kind of what plays out on both sides. And again, absolutely nothing wrong with it. And I love the discussions that you guys have. As long as you guys keep it all, respectful, that's perfectly fine. I appreciate all of the comments and the discussions down there. What's going on, John? Yeah, I know, Lang. 20%. All right, you sold a little too and took some profits. So I'm not at the profit taking point right now when it comes to Tesla. I took my profits previously, and I took my profits when the stock was around 260 to 270 the last time around, or not, actually 2 times around. So about almost a year ago now. When it started to move up again, hitting those levels. So that's about where I was at, and I sold mine. And I added a little bit more when we got down around the $200 level as well. And again, for you guys who don't know, I have I never sold out anything in my IRA. I held all of those. I kept on adding all of my like 401k, and I have a lot of ETFs and different funds in my 401k that have Tesla in it. All of the ETFs that I own in my main portfolio that have Tesla in it, I added to all of those. But when it comes to Tesla itself and my main portfolio, I'm now at a point where I'm going to be paying attention to just kind of adding more to it. So actually, I'll show you guys here. Let me bring it up for you. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, so I have different levels, and I'll show you guys my different levels that I have in here, because the different levels that I have, I've just made a slight adjustment. So I'm not going to go all in and add heavily to Tesla. I'm not going to, go all in and go back to where I was before, because I do have a significant chunk of my portfolio overall in Tesla. But what I'm going to do is do this properly and not, there we go. So what I'm going to do here is all these blue ones here, these are all my dividend growth stocks. So if they pay dividends, I put them in the dividend growth stock category. And right now I want to get them to $475 each. So this is shortly going to go up to $500 each once I get to 10% cash, which I'm at 9.18% cash now. Once that hits 10%, then I'm going to push all this up to 500. These down here, these are just my straight up growth stocks that don't pay dividends. These here I have a limit at $300. What I'm changing is Tesla, Amazon, and possibly SoFi and Palantir. I haven't decided yet, but definitely Tesla and Amazon. I'm going to bump that up into this category. I'm going to leave them down here, but the number I'm going to put them at is $500. So I will put them at a higher category that I'm going to be adding more money to. So as you can see here at $500, I'm still not adding to Tesla. However, as time goes on, if there's any dips that happen in Tesla, which I know after today doesn't seem like it's going to happen, but don't forget, with the massive run we had today, there's a gap that was created down to 213. Of course, gaps don't always fill, but they do fill 9 out of 10 times. And while UPS is showing us signs that the economy is doing better, and perhaps we don't end up getting a recession, there's still a lot of other indicators to get through to make sure that we don't get there. If for some reason we do get a pullback and we do get a recession or even just a correction of some sort, Tesla may pull back down to fill that gap. If that happens, I will then be adding more shares to my portfolio when it comes to Tesla. So that's just my strategy when it comes to Tesla. I'm bumping it up in the category to be adding more to it, but I'm not going crazy to add heavily, again, just because I do have so much of it in all of my other areas of my portfolios. Now, SoFi and Palantir, I haven't decided. I think I might bump them up as well. Just kind of leave these here, and I'll leave cryptocurrency down here. I'm going to bump that up to $400. But I think when it comes to these here, I think I'm going to bump all of them up to $500 and let it go. I mean, SoFi has been on a tear lately. It pushed over $11 today, closing at 1093 today. Been absolutely running wild. So loving my position on that. My cost basis on that is 784. So very happy with that. Prepare for the rally coming up after November 5th. Totally possible. And again, I basically stay out of politics. You know, my mentality is regardless of who has been president, it's always been up to me to be able to make my financial situation better. So that's just me on a personal level. That's how I feel about it. So I kind of stay out of the politics for the most part. But obviously with Elon supporting Trump, if that's the case, and Trump ends up winning, perhaps that does end up running it up. But don't forget, a lot of the people who are buying Teslas are on the left, so that might piss them off. Again, so much to discuss there. Don't really want to get into too much of that aspect of it. As far as I'm concerned, Tesla makes an amazing vehicle. They're going to be putting out the compact car next year, or at least bringing down the vehicle prices, whether it's going to be a RoboCab with a steering wheel and pedals, or if it's just going to be the new manufacturing process that they're going to be running all of their vehicles through. And maybe we get a Model 3 going through the new manufacturing process and in turn ends up bringing it down to have a cost of $25,000. So maybe the Model 3 ends up becoming like a $29,000 vehicle and a sub $30,000 car, and we don't actually get a compact car. Again, I don't know, but I think that's the more important thing to focus on going forward. So November 5th may play a role in it. I don't know. What I'm looking at from the macro aspect is we are at extreme greed right now. So we are, historically, when we get there, we usually get a correction afterwards. So if we get a correction afterwards, but Tesla being in an RSI that was a lot lower, actually, I'll take a look at Tesla's RSI right now after the run. All right, so of course, after today, their RSI jumped up to 64.9. So that's a massive jump. So if the market ends up selling off, just pay attention because that gap could pull down. I guess technically the gap is at 218 for Tesla right now. But pay attention because we may pull down and fill that gap at 218. Maybe the entire market sells off after November 5th. And that's something we want to pay attention to is, the market selling off and Tesla coming back down to fill that gap again. So again, right now we're at that 260 level. This has been the level we have struggled to break over the last year. This is going to be the turning point. If we can break through this, then I can see us pushing up to that $295 to $300 level. If we don't end up breaking this, we fall back down, probably fill a gap at 218, and then we just kind of have to watch what the market's going to do from there. Um, let's see what else we got here. Allowing to keep DCA and Palantir, Nvidia, Tesla, Apple, Berkshire. I've contemplated getting into Berkshire, but I'm not, just because they don't, ironically, don't pay a dividend, but I don't do it just because I'm looking for most of my stocks I want to have income generation. So my entire portfolio, the only ones that don't have income generation are cryptos, and I don't have it. Obviously, Tesla, Amazon, SoFi, and Palantir. Just four. That's it. Those are the only ones, along with cryptocurrency, that don't give me income generation. So I kind of don't want to get into Berkshire just because of that reason. Obviously, long term, I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to outperform the market, but that's just kind of my my take on it and how I'm running my portfolio. Elon pissed off a lot, a lot on the left. He did, but you know what? Again, he pissed off a lot on the left, but look at deliveries, still pushing up higher and higher. So, all that banter and BS going on about people is like, oh, he's going to piss these people off. His entire, customer base is not going to buy vehicles. Clearly they did. So does it really matter? No, I'm looking at the numbers. I'm not looking at the talk. I'm looking at the numbers. John, good to see the gains today. I'll be selling more now above 260. I did accumulate 1,250 shares. Wow, nice. Over the last 4 years, I was very optimistic. John, great job. That was one of the things I contemplated doing, and I talked about a lot before I switched my investing mindset. Was just that, and I told everybody, I was like, look, these are going to be the times. It's going to be flat and basically dead for the next 2-3 years. These are the times we're going to want to accumulate. The longer it stays at those levels, the longer we have an opportunity to accumulate, because again, looking long term. Now, of course, this obviously comes down to if you believe Tesla is actually going to come through on everything they had discussed over the last couple of weeks when it comes to robo-taxis, when it comes to FSD, energy, Optimus, all of that. If you believe all of that is going to come to fruition at any point, some point, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, doesn't matter. If you think that's going to come to fruition, that is going to be a game changer and take Tesla to the next level. So, you look at a Tesla chart for the last 12 years, and you see the stock was basically flat and did nothing and then skyrocketed really quickly. We could go through something very similar. We could be flat and basically do absolutely nothing for several years and then skyrocket. So Tesla comes out, let's say next year, they say, yep, we are level 5 autonomy. Robotaxis are hitting the road in 2026. Boom, the stock is going to take off, and it may not ever come back down to these levels, and honestly, it probably would come down a little bit just because you're going to get the hype and then you're going to get the reality of the numbers coming in. But then we have to see the numbers. And then when the numbers come in, we figure it out from there. So that's really what it comes down to, is where the number's going to be at. But this could be that situation. And again, the robotaxi is awesome, but that lower priced cost vehicle coming next year is going to be even better. And when Elon came out and said that they're looking at 20 to 30% increase in deliveries year over year, that's getting them back to that 50% year over year delivery rate, which, don't forget, it doesn't mean 50% every single year. It's annualized. And because they did so well at the beginning of the decade, they don't have to get 50%. 30% is going to be perfectly fine. And if they start putting out robotaxis at the 2 million a year that Elon wants, then we're going to be pushing significantly higher. So cybercabs at 2 million a year, you're going to be seeing, numbers going through the roof when it comes to deliveries. And again, we don't know anything that at all that goes behind, what's going to happen with Tesla. Are they going to get a piece of that robotaxi revenue? Are they going to get pieces of whatever revenue is out there? Are they going to have their own fleet? So we don't know any of that. Either way, great job accumulating all of those shares over the last 4 years, John, because obviously you're seeing it paying off handsomely. Taking a little bit of profit right now, absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. My dad has always been that, and he just chimed in too. He's always been that way. He's like, taking a profit. There's nothing ever wrong with taking a profit. You take a profit, you won, and that's all that matters. And if it goes up from there, so be it. A win's a win. But again, if you're going to trim a little off the top, John, I think that's great. Take a little profit and then let it roll from there. Last Musk's antics have lifted the scales from my eyes. I no longer see him as any form of genius, just a lucky grifter launched with daddy's wealth. Well, so to correct that, he did not have anything with his father. His father had the emerald mine, which he got literally nothing from, was bankrupt. So he didn't get money from that. He basically built a lot of the stuff on his own. If you're reading his book, his mom May sent him a little bit of money, wasn't much, but sent him a little bit just so he could, survive. Otherwise, he did most of it on his own. However, I don't look at him and his antics and things like that. I look at the companies he's built, regardless of his behavior and attitude, whatever it is. It is him who was the brainchild behind it. It's very much like Steve Jobs. He was the brainchild behind Apple, but he wasn't the one who was actually making the iPhones. It was the engineers and the people behind it. And Elon always touts the engineers behind everything when it comes to SpaceX, when it comes to Twitter, when it comes to Tesla, all of those. Elon touts all the people who are actually doing the work. He just happens to be the brainchild behind it and the driving force and the whip cracker who gets everybody moving at a faster pace. Heard there were a couple of one-time entries in earnings to bring up margins, batteries, and Cybertruck. So that's actually one thing I've got to take a look at too. Margins obviously blew numbers out of the water. Operating margins coming up to 10.3% from 6.8. We had vehicle margins coming in at 17.1% with an expectation of 14.9%. So that was awesome to see those jumps in those numbers. And the one-time entries, that I'll have to take a look and see where those were, because I don't know where FSD falls into this, because I know they kind of have that revenue on the sidelines, which I guess they could toss in there to pad numbers if they want, which like they got the revenue, but if they put it into specific areas, I don't know how they're accounting for that right now. So maybe it was some of that. I'll dive deeper into the numbers when I get a chance this weekend and give you guys an update once I see that. But even so, I'd have to see what those one-time numbers are, just because that it would have to be significant to push it up as high as it did. So, and obviously, if it was something that was a one-off that could be sketchy, the market would have recognized that and would have sold off on that today, because they would have had the time to go and dig into it deeper today, which they typically do. And we didn't see that. We saw the opposite. So, even if it is, I'm curious as to what it is. I'll dig in and I'll take a look at that for you guys and let you know. Lang, what's your views on Target LANC? Those I'm not familiar with, Lang, so I'll have to do a little more research on those. I won't do it on a live stream here just because I'll need some time and my brain is completely fried from the last few weeks of work. But I'm going to write those down, put those on my list to take a look at. Let's see what we got. LANCESLECOALB. All right. Yeah, I'll take a look at those when I get a chance this weekend. You don't believe Tesla's going to come through on any of those anymore? You don't think so, John? Why? Just out of curiosity, why? What's your reasoning behind it? I know the last 4 years were quite a struggle, but in my eyes, and again, I've taken the hood off of being in the Tesla sphere, and it was very eye opening. Whereas I was kind of blinded to a lot of the negative side of what was going on in reality. Stepping away from things opened my eyes to a lot of it. So I can now see both sides of it, and I kind of see it from an outsider's perspective, and from a business perspective strictly. I see that they're going to be dropping costs. They dropped cost of their vehicles significantly. So going next year with the manufacturing process, I see that's truly going to happen, because it's the machine that makes the machine. And that's going to be the big one. The Gigafactory is what they've been talking about before, is going to be the real game changer. So just from an automotive perspective, lowering the cost of their vehicles by, could be up to 10 to 20%, coming down to that $25,000 cost for a vehicle, is going to be huge on that point, which is going to push margins up. So strictly from that aspect, that's awesome. Coming out with the FSD, I've ridden in a vehicle. I don't know if you've ridden in one that has FSD, but I did. And this was months ago. So they're even better now than they were then. And we went from my house to the next town over to a charging station and back with no interventions. The only thing that had to be done was sometimes giving it a little bit of the pedal to encourage it and say, all right, yes, you can go, because, it is very conservative when it drives and it wants to be cautious. So other than that, the technology is there. So I can believe that they're going to come through on that. Is it going to be next year? I don't know, but I can definitely see that it will end up happening at some point. So I can see that energy is growing. So that's not a question in my mind that that's going to happen. And the semi truck is coming along, and it's more delayed than originally we had thought. Looks like 2026 is really going to be the year that it moves, but that's also reality. So a lot of these things may just take a little bit longer, but I do think they're all going to come to fruition. But I'd be curious to hear your outlook on it. I think good dividend sites. I'll take a look at that, Lang. I'll write that down as my notes. dividend. Because I'm always looking for new ones myself. I'm very, very happy with my portfolio, but if I can find something that has a good option for dividends, I'll definitely take a look at that. So I'll keep you posted on that one line. Yep, exactly. As my dad said, it's hard to lose money when you take profits. If you are making money, that's awesome. And not only that, but depending on your cost basis, like for me and Coney, that's one of the ultra yielding ETFs that I have, where it does suffer from NAV erosion, but I caught it at the right time, so I made so much money on it that I've made my money back and doubled my money, and I'm still playing with the house money right now, which is generating income on a monthly basis for me. Cannot complain about that whatsoever. And actually, I think that one there brought in $50 this month for me. Let me see. Go back. Oops. Oh, of course. Yeah, I'm gonna take a look. I think that brought in $50 for me this month. So it's like, you know, I've won enough house money for it to bring in $50, $55 this month. So can't complain about that. Now, where it's at right now, I don't know. But again, Coinbase, based upon cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, for the most part, if cryptocurrency goes on a run, Coinbase probably will end up going on a run as well, which means that Coney will end up going on a run. So you'll see appreciation from it and higher dividends. It paid back in the spring. It paid dividends over $2 a share. Total madness. I was making bank on that one. So again, that one for me is perfect to hold on to. I may add AMZY. I'm not sure. I will be having Darth Dividends on here. Anybody else who has been paying attention to any dividend stocks, or if you follow him, I've had him on the channel once before. So he's been doing dividends for a lot longer than I have, and he still does a lot more with the ultra yield dividends as well. I want to bring him on here and kind of pick his brain on some of that, because I am looking to add one more to that as my portfolio grows. I want to keep that section of my portfolio around 5% in the near term, just to keep that income generation coming in until the rest of my portfolio builds up more. So I'm looking to add another position to it. AMZY was one of them, but I want to pick his brain on any other options that are out there for some potential, for other potential ETFs. Hey, what's going on, Gavin? All in yet? No, definitely not all in, and I won't be. My portfolio overall is probably, I don't know, maybe 12% Tesla between all the accounts and stuff, and I feel comfortable with that. Again, I think I would be fine, but my whole entire strategy has changed to more income generation rather than this, because with the income generation plan that I have, I plan on leaving, if I can, leaving my job by 2030. With Tesla, the timing of it, if I wanted to leave by 2030, assuming the stock did move the way it could potentially move, I would have to sell out a lot of my shares to be able to do what I want to do. And I don't want to have to do that. By doing it the way I'm doing it now, I can get myself to a point where I can leave my job and have Tesla shares and have the income coming in to be able to add more to my Tesla rather than have to sell it. And that's the situation I would rather be in for myself. Oh, okay, so you sold most. That's fine. Again, profit's a profit, John. That's awesome. Um, and the gains being short lived depends on your outlook. I think the gains right now, again, I think we're going to see macro environment stuff that's going to go on that could pull Tesla down to fill that gap at 218. So this could be a good near term pop that we see from it. From a fundamental perspective, I still think it's going to be awesome. Tesla still has some time to go right now to kind of catch up to where it's at when it comes to how you're going to value it. And again, the questions always come down to, are we valuing this as a tech company? Are we valuing this as an automotive company? And that battle is going to continually rage on until Tesla truly does come out and says that FSD is solved and here are the robo taxis. Until that happens, the people who are valuing Tesla as an automotive company are going to be correct, strictly because of the fact that institutions are looking at the next 12 months. And if Tesla's not generating any tech type revenue over the next 12 months, they're valuing it as an automotive company, period, the end. And so until that ends up happening, it's not going to matter when it comes to the stock, because the valuation is going to constantly fluctuate. So for people who swing trade or play in options, they're going to do very, very well. For people who are long-term holders, just have to wait it out until Tesla actually gets to that point. And then all of a sudden that valuation is going to flip, which is why we'll see that skyrocket of the stock price, because the valuation flips from an automotive company and that battle there to a tech company when Tesla can actually justify and show the revenues coming in from their tech stuff. Tim, are you in any way suspicious of this apparent and sudden earnings turnaround? Not really. I mean, this is just following the earnings all year long and the timing of things. Not at all. And again, I'm going to dive into the numbers this weekend, as my dad had pointed out. Supposedly there were some one-off things. I'll take a look at one-off stuff, but not surprised at all. I mean, this was the question all year long: was when are the margins going to bottom? Tesla's been taking massive price cuts on their vehicles. They've been doing creative financing for all their vehicles as well to get more deliveries out there. So all of those numbers justify with margins coming down. So then you see that the cost of their vehicles are coming down, which is what they had been talking about all year long. We know commodity prices have come way down, lithium and everything else. So because the commodity prices have come down significantly over the last year, that justifies the cost of the vehicle price coming down. So thereby margins go up. So I'm not questioning any of that whatsoever. Yeah, from a fundamental standpoint, from numbers, I'm not questioning that, just because you can see the trend on the macro level of how they got to their numbers where they're at. It'll be. And John, my reasoning is I stopped immersing myself in Tesla bubble. Yep, I did the same thing. Seeing alternative views. Chris Miller, for example, has my eyes on a more objective viewpoint. Yeah, and I didn't dive into other people's videos so much, but I haven't watched any Tesla specific videos either. Kind of followed a lot of the stuff on X for the most part, and on X there's the huge dichotomy on both sides of the thing, and I looked at it with less rosy glasses. So I'm still optimistic on Tesla itself, but I looked at it from a very third person perspective viewpoint to see that. And again, I see a lot of the challenges that Tesla's facing, which is why for me, I'm not going to be like, yes, they're going to get there, but I think that they will at some point, because it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And that's where my question came down to: when is it going to happen? And kind of from my perspective, viewing it sort of like a lot of investors and a lot of institutions of, I'm viewing it as an automotive company right now with the potential of it becoming a tech company. So very much like a Gary Black style outlook when it comes to Tesla. Of, I love the company, I think they're going to do very well, but hey, until they can show me what they're actually going to be doing, I'm going to value them accordingly based upon what they're currently doing right now. Sorry to seem so negative. John, hey, we all have our opinions. Whatever, man. I appreciate you voicing it out there. Not negative, positive, whatever it is. It's how you feel. But my objectivity has been regained, and I have had so much more on the other stock this last 4 years too. Yeah, and that was kind of my perspective too, John. Was I saw a lot of opportunities elsewhere that I could be making money on, and I did. I mean, I was talking to one of my coworkers today, and it was wildly hit me. I didn't even realize this. When COVID hit, my portfolio came down to $600, and that's all my portfolio was worth. $600 in 2020. Now, granted, that was kind of like near the lows when it came to COVID, which obviously was a very bottom of the market. But $600, my just stock portfolio alone is now just over $50,000. And now, granted, I did add a lot of money of my own on that, so it's not like I did gain strictly through the market, but because I was wise with my investing and invested a lot of money, $50,000 is now where my portfolio is at. Now, when you include the fact that I took out a huge chunk of money that I had been saving up to go and put it into my house, and you put the equity value on that, and you start factoring in the other cash that I have as well that is also stored away for other things, that's $100,000 that I just noticed today. So I've basically gone from a $600 portfolio to a six-figure portfolio within 4 years. Kind of blew my own mind that I did that, but because of the fact that I moved money into different places over the last year and a half, that allowed me to grow my portfolio that much more. Melissa, what's going on? You made it on. Yes, it's awesome to see you guys. All you guys, man, I have missed all of you so much. And I know that I don't do a lot of Tesla specific stuff, but I will be doing Tesla Tuesdays going forward. So every single Tuesday, I'm going to give you guys an update on Tesla, and then I've got some other plans for the weekly stuff coming out. Kind of going to try to keep things consistent so you guys can see what's going on and track things going forward. And I have a couple of free days that are out there that I'll do some random stuff, or the live chats. Obviously, we can always chat about whatever we want to on here. John, percentage of my portfolio is Tesla now. Total with everything combined, probably about 12%, but that also includes my 401k and all that. My current portfolio right now, strictly just Tesla. I own 2 shares, only 2 shares of Tesla. But again, between my ETFs that have heavy in Tesla, my 401k that's heavy in Tesla, my IRA, I have 11 shares of Tesla. So I've got Tesla scattered throughout all of my portfolios to about 11 to 12%. Melissa was up 42,000 today, thanks to MicroStrategy. Ooh, so that's another big one. MicroStrategy's been doing awesome, and again, don't know how that's going to go. That's obviously doing extremely well. And when it comes to the ultra yield, the yield max ETFs, they have Misty MSTY, which plays on it. They just announced a dividend of $4 per share. So while I did awesome with Coney, MSTY would have done significantly better. Now, again, I'm not going to play those for timing on things like that. I'm going to try to if I can do stuff, but I won't buy into MSTY right now. It's one of those that, I'll catch a dip if it comes. If it doesn't come, so be it. I don't mind missing out on that. I don't like huge volatility on things. That's another reason why I liked going over to the portfolio strategy I have now, because man, my emotional level is so much better. It's like riding the lazy river versus the rapids, which we had before when it comes to Tesla. Lang, I like Tesla to make some cheaper EVs. Not all people can afford above 35,000. That is true, because I've been looking myself, and like, while if I wanted to, I probably could go and buy it, but it's still like 500 something dollars a month. No, thank you. And then I have to get the charger and things like that. My gas right now is costing me like $175 a month. So I would not be saving that much money when it comes to Tesla. If I had a longer commute or something like that, maybe it would be worth it. But if I can get a Tesla for like, I don't know, 28 grand, and if you factor in from 28 grand, if I start factoring in all the EV tax credits and all of that stuff, if I can get it for like 21 or 22 and I get my monthly payments down to like 250, $300 a month, I'll consider it at that point. So I'm kind of at the point where if my dividends are bringing in enough to consistently to pay for a Tesla, then I'll be like, all right, maybe it's worth a shot. But until then, my car has been doing perfectly fine. It's got over 200,000 miles on it. And I may take a look and say, maybe get another used beater with 100,000 miles that can limp me another 3-4 years. Again, I would rather keep money on the sideline right now, especially with potential uncertainty in the economy going on, where I might have better buying opportunities in the market. I'd rather put my money into that than into an actual Tesla itself, unless I need something. But yeah, same thing. The affordable vehicle, when they get that affordable vehicle out, that's going to open up their total addressable market, their TAM, significantly. And that's going to be another major game changer, and to John's point, mass market is not 40K. Exactly. And to John's point from before, if Tesla, regardless of all the tech stuff that's going on, from just an automotive standpoint, they come out with that more mass market vehicle, that's going to be a game changer as well. Dad, yep. Never a good idea to have more than 15% in any one equity unless you are a gambler. I agree. And where I was before with Tesla, I was totally comfortable having that much Tesla myself. But again, it was one of those learning experiences where I made money on Tesla. It was fine, but now I'm much happier where I'm at. And again, Tesla goes up. Awesome. My portfolio moves up a little bit. Sure, it would have moved up significantly more if I had all the shares that I had before. But when Tesla falls like it did, now my portfolio barely moves. And it actually gives me an opportunity to buy more Tesla and just kind of dip my toes in a little bit more into it. So that's the way I look at it here. And, one of those things that, again, I learned, and it wasn't the hard way because I still made money on Tesla, but I definitely learned over the last couple of years that it's, for me, much safer to be at the 15% and lower level. And even then, most of my other positions aren't anywhere near that amount. Allowing me to make more percent gains on NVIDIA, Palantir, Costco, Apple. Yeah, Costco I love. Apple, ASML I didn't own. TSMC I didn't own. But I owned all the rest of them, and I still do. I own NVIDIA. And NVIDIA, that to me is one of those sleepers when it's going to come to dividend growth, because a lot of people are like, NVIDIA is going to be awesome. I think, just from an equity appreciation standpoint, they're going to be awesome. And I think at some point in the next 2 to 3 years, they'll probably hit that wall, sort of like Apple did, and they'll level off, but they're still going to have nice growth to them. But because they're going to have so much just consistent revenue coming in from everybody kind of getting these chips to be able to move themselves into AI, because we'll get to a point where you basically, if you don't have AI, you're going to fail. And so they're going to have different ones coming out, and you're even going to get to a point where you're going to have smaller businesses. They'll probably have different ones that smaller businesses can get a hold of as well, to have that, for their own self. And so that's going to open up a bigger total addressable market for Nvidia. Now you're going to get up to a point where they'll have that nice steady growth over the years, and that revenue coming in, they can add on to dividends. Now they just did a 150% dividend hike back in the spring. That could be something more consistent that we see every year, massive dividend growth. So you'll get awesome equity appreciation growth and dividend growth coming out of them. I think in the next 10 to 20 years, we're going to see some massive numbers coming from dividends from them as well. Melissa, I'm a big fan of yield max funds. I've made thousands on those in a few months. Yeah, Misty, man. Woo, Misty, Nvidia, and Coney. Those three have been the huge winners. So you picked them all very well. There are some like Tesla for me. I lost a lot. Well, overall, I made money, but the NAV erosion destroyed me. So I would have made a lot more had I sold out sooner. But I didn't. And again, to me, those are more of a gamble type play, just because the volatility is significant and it could come down, and the downside is infinite, the upside is limited, and the income that's coming in fluctuates massively, just because it all comes down to what's the volatility of the individual underlying stock, what's the volatility of the market. Totally wild. So you did awesomely well on those, and again, I'm not against them, but I've got to dive in and see which ones are worth getting. AMZ might be one. AMZ for Amazon. So that might be one of them. But again, I have to play around with it, and I just got to see and kind of judge. And again, that's why I'm going to have dark dividends on here. But man, those are pretty awesome. MicroStrategy, lots of Bitcoin. Yeah. Yeah. MicroStrategy is very volatile. They made a massive gamble with what they did. And rumor has it that they're working on becoming like a Bitcoin bank, basically. So obviously, if Bitcoin does go where a lot of people think it's going to go, that could play out to be awesome and be great for MicroStrategy. If it doesn't play out, could be completely detrimental, and then they go bankrupt. So again, that is a very, very questionable one there. But obviously, some people have been doing very, very well with it. What's my opinion on Vertiv Holdings? I'm not familiar with Vertiv, but I will write that down. Catan, let me see. VERT. I have heard of it before, but I have not done any research on it, so I will have to look at that for you. So I will look at that, and I will have time this weekend to look at that, and I will get back to you on that one. Yes, but Bitcoin goes over 70K, going to be running, oh, absolutely. So, for you guys who haven't followed charts or don't follow crypto, Bitcoin, basically the ceiling so far has been 73,000, around there. So we've tested it again recently and haven't pushed back up to it. So we've kind of been consolidating basically around the levels we're at right now. We've been sitting here for a little while, so kind of waiting for that next big push forward. And we'll see. And, I don't know what's going to happen with the market. If the market pulls back entirely, is this the moment where Bitcoin becomes that store of value, sort of like a gold, but for the crypto community, and they start dumping more money into it? Or is it going to play out like it's done the last few times and come crashing down as well when the entire market comes down? Just got to wait and see. We'll see what happens there. John, I've been making so much on ARM, Palantir, NVIDIA, AST, Space Mobile. I don't know AST. Rocket Lab. Yeah, Rocket Lab has been, that's another one of those smaller ones that that moves up and down. And people have asked me to get into it and my thoughts. And again, it's not where my mentality is right now. It's again between having the house and trying to get this ready, having a tenant here, trying to make sure everything is set with that. My job taking up 50 hours of my week. I'm just trying to earn as much money as I can with OT and things like that to put money into here and pay for my kids' college. I don't have the mental capacity to handle anything that's going to be highly volatile or swing trading. It's just easier for me to do it this way. Perhaps down the road, when all of the dust settles from what I'm doing right now, that sounds awesome. I'll do it. Otherwise, yeah, I'm just kind of chilling. Yeah, Palantir, man. So Palantir, let me see. I had Palantir, I made money on it, and then I sold it all entirely, bought back into Palantir around $7 and change. did very well on it, ended up selling out at $16, bought back in at $12, sold at about 22, and then bought back in at 20. So I swung trade that one very well. Obviously, I could have just held at 6 and been doing even better, but whatever. I made money, put that money elsewhere, made money on those places. So right now, my cost basis is 20 bucks. So I'm up 2x on it right now, but would have been up, well more than 300. Man, I could have been up like an 8x on it, but hey, I made my money, so I'm happy with that. Me too. I would not buy Tesla EV above 25K. Yeah. So, and we may see that. Having Tesla. So even on the earnings call, Elon mentioned that the 25K is going to be the cost of the vehicle. So it's not like we are going to be able to buy it for 25,000. But if the cost of the vehicle is 25,000, they sell it for 29. You tack on EV tax credits. Realistically, after EV tax credits, you could get it for under $25,000. So that could be a reality within the next year to year and a half. Melissa, I must be crazy. I'm 70% Tesla, but I've traded over the years also. Yeah, and you also play options. So that makes it a little bit different. But hey, to each their own. Some people who have been all in on Tesla for a decade now are multi-millionaires. So kudos, sometimes it pays off. I'll dip my toes in on VRT, Coney, and MicroStrategy. Yeah, Coney I've liked, and at these levels here, it's down around I think $13 or so today. So that could certainly push back up. Um, just pay attention to them, and again, dipping your toes in, nothing wrong with it. Keep an eye on those and see how they go. Yes, Nvidia is a godfather of AI. Seriously, they're doing awesome, and I'd love to see them keep going. And I don't see them not doing well. I think they're going to end up being, like I said, like the Apple of the microchip AI business, and that's what it's going to be. And instead of them selling, iPhones and iPads to the general public, they're going to be selling different chips to companies that are out there, and it's going to be kind of the same thing. And they'll go through super cycles and things like that. I think that's how it's going to end up playing out for Nvidia. Melissa, I always sell my shares when they're up if the payout isn't close. They're great to trade yield max funds. Yeah, and that's another thing too. If you can pay attention to the yield max funds, could be worth it. Now they've switched now because of the way the market changed and the regulations. It's a 1 day to so they do the declaration day and then they pay out the next day. So instead of there being a 2 day buffer, there's now a 1 day, so it's the next day. So you know you got opportunity. You can see what they're going to be paying out. Hey, do I want to buy? Do I want to sell? But usually that date is also the date that it's going to end up selling off. So let's say they declare a $1 dividend, the price will come down $1 on that day. So you have to, pay attention to that. But you can usually track, especially if you're playing options and you understand how the options chains work. You can see how the volatility of each one of the underlying securities is doing, and you can kind of get a feel for what you think the payout might end up being at the end of the month for one of these yield max ETFs. Obviously, the fund managers doing their own options trading could be completely different than what you're doing. So it could play out completely differently, but you can at least understand the volatility behind it and how that operates. Let's see. Yep, John's down to 50%, down to 5%. Ronald's all out of Tesla. And and again, there's a lot of people who they didn't like what happened over the last 4 years, on a multitude of levels. Um, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. I think Tesla is going to be fine long term. Again, I'm still going to hold on to my little bits, but hey, making money is making money. Not scary, but I do believe in the story. My average is 183. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, my IRA, my average is 188. So I'm up. I've learned the expect the fluctuations. Yeah, but it's not the only thing I invest in. Yes, it's always good to be diversified in things. Oh, one more college payment for you. That's awesome. Yeah, I have a lot more to go. I've only made one so far. Let's see what else we have here. Uh, John, Melissa, I sold out my Tesla around 260. I started 2024, been buying under 200 and selling it. Yeah, John, that's actually, and that worked out well. That was basically the roller coaster we've been on is 200 to 260. Sometimes we dip down, like we did get to that 144 level and then pushed back up. But that's basically been it. And yeah, if riding that roller coaster again, maybe we pull down to 218 again and test the $200 level again, and you can do it again, John. Keep on rolling that money. Concerning a lot of big money selling Nvidia lately, are they waiting for a pullback on earnings call? That's a good question because even what the hell is his name? God, totally drawing a blank on the CEO's name, but even he sold some as well. So it's like I don't know. Again, I don't own a lot of Nvidia. It's one of my smaller positions in my dividend growth stock positions. But yeah, I think again, I hate saying that we're due for a pullback, but I think we're going to have a bit of profit taking coming at some point in the near future. So I don't know what's going to happen. Don't forget things like remember when Tesla sold off massively when Elon was selling. That started basically my birthday, November 8th. So that happened that year, and it sold off. So it could happen where maybe this is that cycle of 2 years later where hey, just we need a breather. Don't forget, it's basically been since October 31st of last year that the stock market has been going straight up. I mean, we saw a bit of a sell off going through September and October of last year. We bottomed on October 31st and went straight up. We've had two small corrections or three small corrections this year. That's it. Not a lot. And they were all like 7%. Wasn't even anything big. So we really haven't had any sort of time to cool the market off in a real capacity for about a year. So, you know, people talk about valuations, and valuations of the entire market have gotten pretty frothy. A lot of it is heavily weighted when it comes to tech, AI plays, the Magnificent Seven. So there could definitely be some profit taking coming up very soon. And again, don't forget back in March, there was a lot of tax loss harvesting going on. So one of those little corrections that we had back then, there was a lot of that taking place. So if a lot of institutions already took a big hit on a lot of these and they're in the negative right now, they can afford to take some profits on these plays right now because they don't know what's going on with the election that's going on. Hey, we don't know what the next, person's going to be doing when they get into office. We don't know what's going to happen. So maybe they end up taking some profits in the near term to kind of offset the tax loss harvesting from before and still leaves them room at the end of the year to take even more tax loss harvesting for anything if it sells off from here. Just things to play around with in your head. Maybe the flying car. Yeah. I mean, when he's talking about the Roadster being flying, I think it's going to be like hovering, maybe. I don't know. It'll be interesting. We'll see. Hanif, do you think Tesla will split next year if the shares increase again? No, I'm actually looking. I do have a list of potential stocks I think are going to split, and I'll throw them on here so you guys can officially hear my list of stocks that I think could be potentially splitting. Where is that list of Split Watch? Caterpillar, Home Depot, United Healthcare, Costco, Eli Lilly, MasterCard, Meta, and Microsoft. Those are the 8 right there that I currently own that are on my potential split list. Of just pushing up to that price level point that they have historically split at before. So I'm thinking that a lot of them are due to potentially split. So again, just paying attention to it. So I had one, Cintas is one that split for me back in the spring. It was a kind of a surprise that it split because I wasn't paying super heavy attention to it. But Cintas is CTAS, one of my favorite stocks that I've purchased. Like nobody ever talks about it. Nobody knows what the heck they are, but I'm sure you see their trucks and vans driving all over the place. They're awesome. Love them. The stock has been amazing for me. Actually, let me see what I'm up on Cintas. Let me show you guys. So Cintas down here, CTAS. All-time return on Cintas is 38%. So I'm up $142 on it. 38% return on Cintas. Again, who knew? I sure didn't. But they're outperforming a lot of my other plays that I've got. They're probably in my top 5. The top 5 for me has been Oracle, ironically, because, well, namesake, look at that. But that is also on one of my chopping block lists. So Oracle's earnings are coming up in a couple of weeks. And so we'll see how they do with their earnings. If they even make it there, if I'm holding it by then, we'll see. Let's see. Oh, Jensen. Thank you. Thank you, Jensen. Yes. I said it was done selling though. Okay. All right. That's fair. Let me see. My dad, the only thing that goes up all the time is your age. I mean, historically, the market has also gone up over time, but yes. Yes, November 8th is coming soon, very soon. Thanks, Hanif. I appreciate that. Let me see. Yeah, Broadcom. Broadcom's another big one. And again, Broadcom is another one that took off. And again, there's nothing that says that it has to sell off. There's nothing that says that it has to come down. Whatever it is, Costco has been a very premium stock for a very long time. It's always traded at a premium, sold at a premium, and that's where it's at. And people will pay the premium for that. And everybody keeps saying, "Well, it's due to come down." It's like, but it hasn't. So will it? Who knows? What was special in 2022? It all happened in 2021. Oh, I must have missed part of your conversations before. But yeah, so um, that's kind of where I'm looking at things is, what opportunities we have. And again, Tesla I think is going to be awesome. But I'm just kind of paying attention to the keeping myself diversified, and I do own a lot of stocks and ETFs. I do want to consolidate, but I'm not going to do that until we see, because if you're anticipating a rougher economic time, you want to be diversified as much as you can, because you want to make sure that your money is going to kind of stay even keel and give yourself better opportunities. But as soon as you have gotten into that harder economic time, you can easily see who the stronger players are going to be. And when you see those stronger players, those are the ones who are going to come out on the other side even stronger. Looking back to the great financial crisis, you had the Apples, Microsofts, Metas, companies like that, Amazons, who you could tell during the economic time at that point, they were going to be stronger coming out of it. They were healthy going through it. They were going to be fine coming out. So that's where you would want to consolidate your money too, because you see a lot of companies out there that are floundering, and they could be easily bought up by one of those monster companies. Think about Apple has monster cash pile. Berkshire Hathaway has a monster cash pile. They don't sit there and wait, hey, we're waiting for an opportunity to buy some stocks. They're like, hey, I'm going to wait for an opportunity for an economic struggle and a challenge to buy an entire company and go that way. That's how they're going to be operating. So, hey, maybe you make out well in the deal. Maybe you own a company that's going to get bought out and you're going to get paid on those shares for it. But chances are, if you do end up getting to that point, it's because the shares are beaten down and these other companies are buying that company at a massive discount. So, you got to weigh that in as well. So for me, I'm just looking at, um, so that's kind of why I'm looking at the over diversification right now. But if we get into that time, then I can say, all right, well, which one of my stocks and ETFs that I have are the ones who are going to perform the best? Let me, sell out of a bunch of the other ones and consolidate at that point. So I do at some point plan on trimming my portfolio down by about 50%. It's just going to be a matter of which ones do I go with, but I'm just waiting it out. I'm being patient and waiting to see what the market is giving me for an opportunity. And I just want that clarity that, yes, we have gotten past this. We are not going to get into a recession, or, hey, we are in a recession, and then I'll go from there. Once I get clarity that we're going to be getting to healthier times and we've gotten past a point where we aren't going to get a recession, then I'll consolidate. Will Costco split? Ever split before? Actually, I believe Costco did split in the past, and I'm pretty sure they will split. And I have no doubt they're going to split, because I mean, what is their price right now? Let me take a quick look. Costco. Yeah, I mean they're pushing $900 a share. So I have no doubt they're going to be splitting at some point. And actually, I can look it up. Actually, yeah, let me do it so you guys can see what I'm doing, so you don't just look at me staring at my screen. So looking at this, so I do use Seeking Alpha. I know a lot of people promote it. I'm not a. I do recommend it. Seeking Alpha has great info, even from the free standpoint. Even if you want to use the free version, I highly recommend using it. I get no kickbacks for any of this. I don't have a code or anything for you guys, but I do recommend it. So their dividend history, max. Let me see. Oh, maybe they've never split. Because it would list it on here if they split, unless it was prior to this. Let me see if they have charting. Very interesting. So if we go to, I can't go back. Yeah. So that's one of the things that you're limited to if you have the free version. Like I can't go back 10 years. I can only go back 5 years. But again, it gives me the majority of information that I need from a free basis. So I'd have to look up. Let me see if I do it this way. Nah, let me see. Yeah, I actually don't know. That's a great Costco split. Uh, so it has split, but it hasn't split in nearly 25 years. So yeah. So Costco has split in the past, but it's been 25 years. Yes, and Costco's big on special dividends. Um, Special dividends are awesome. Like last year, they think they paid us like $16 a share. So no, again, $16 a share. Let's they say they do a 4-for-1 split. That just means that a special dividend of that size would be $4 a share. But that's still pretty freaking awesome coming from a company like that. Yep, November 4th is Palantir's earnings day. That's a big one, and there's a lot of people thinking that Palantir is very overvalued at this point right now. I only own 10 shares, I think, or something like that. So I'm not. Is it actually what? How much do I own of? Very curious. Palantir. I have yeah, 10 shares of Palantir. So I'm not in any position to sell any of my Palantir and take profits. I'll let it ride as it is. Interest rates in Canada dropped by 50 basis points. Oh, that's awesome. What do you think the Fed will do? My personal opinion, I think the Fed, because we get ours the day after the election, or I think it's the day or 2 days after the election. I believe they're going to do 25 basis points. So I said it before, they did 50. Based upon their verbiage, what they said before, and the economic conditions, I think they're going to do 25 and then 25 again in December, and that'll give us a full 100 basis point hike, or 1%, by the end of this year. So again, we still do have coming up next week. Next week? Yeah, I think it's next week or the week after. We've got the unemployment data coming out, so that'll be a huge indicator for November. That'll show us October's numbers. So I think that will be an indicator, because if unemployment is looking good, then 25 basis points probably going to be fine. But it'll be something just to pay attention to. Let me see. Tesla has nosebleed high valuations. I like numbers, not hope. Yeah. And maybe is it's a car company that gets revenues from 80% profits from car sales. Yeah. And that's exactly how institutions are viewing this. And that's why a lot of retail investors get frustrated, because they're like, retail investors see the potential that Tesla could be. I'm one of them, but institutions are not going to be doing that. Their institutions are using other people's money. They're not going to be using other people's money to invest in a company that has hope. Hope is not a strategy. They want to see the numbers. So Ronald is exactly right. They're viewing these companies, and if in the next 12 months, Tesla's not going to be showing us anything about, hey, here come a lot of revenues coming in from robotaxis or FSD, it doesn't matter. You're not going to value it as that. You're going to value it as a company who's bringing in 80% of the revenue from vehicles. Done. Which is why when Elon had mentioned the lower priced vehicle coming out in the first half of next year and pushing 20 to 30% growth rates for deliveries year over year, that is why the market moved up as much as it did in the price, because that is a fundamental thing that is actually tangible right now with revenues, what their company is selling right now. Robotaxi means nothing to institutions, means nothing to Wall Street. But when you're talking about actual vehicles, that's what means something. So any fluctuations you see in the stock price for any other reason other than vehicles is kind of just fluff, which is why when we saw that move up at that means that institutions were excited and bought in at those levels because they wanted to see this. Could they do a rug pull and they're like, hey, this is awesome, and then pull it out? Certainly. But chances are that's not what they're going to do. But again, we may see a full market pullback very soon and see Tesla come back to 218. Oh my gosh, we've been on for an hour. Wow, today's been awesome. So yeah, I'm going to get going because I'm tired. I gotta get some sleep. I gotta get up at 3:15 tomorrow morning. But again, you guys are awesome as always. I will be doing Thursday live streams from now on, so no longer Fridays. I will be doing them on Thursdays. So mark your calendars for Thursdays. So I'll be on here on Thursdays. Again, I'm going to be doing Tesla Tuesdays. Mondays, I'm going to be doing a dividend wrap up. So all the dividend increases or changes from the prior week. So everything that we've seen for dividend changes this week, when it comes to my portfolio and some other little ones that are on the radar, I will mention those on Monday's video. Sunday, I will always do the what to expect from the market this week when it comes to earnings or any economic data that we're getting, whatever is going on in the market that could move the market one way or the other. And then Wednesdays and Fridays, I'm just going to kind of leave open. And whatever the market presents to me as something I want to share, I'll share it with you. Or if you guys have suggestions or something we've discussed and you want to talk about it, awesome. We'll discuss it as well. But that's all I've got for you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I absolutely love hanging out with you guys, and Thursdays are going to work out great. So looking forward to seeing you guys next week and seeing you guys in the comments. Have a great one.